I grew up in a children's home. And when I left the children's home, I was homeless for a number of years. I had some addictions, and I kind of built myself up from there. I'm determined, one, that I never have to return back to that area, and two, that my kids don't have to kind of go through that, because the reason, I went into a children's home was because my mum was, broke down because she needed cash. She was struggling with life, and it was just her on her own, and she broke down, and I had to go into care, and I don't want my kids to go through that kind of stuff. So my work ethic comes from a determination.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark Suxford, and welcome to my podcast, People Behind Brands, brought to you by Making Websites Better. In each episode, I'm joined by an inspirational guest to hear more about their individual life lessons and how it shaped them into who they are today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands, life lessons from the world of business. Episode 43 welcomes the expert in all things marketing strategies and consultancy, Mr. Christopher Clowes. Having met Chris a few times previously, we explore his life story to date, which has involved going into care as a child, becoming homeless and struggling with addiction, to building his business empire in the midst of family struggles. Chris is also an author of many business books and is an engaging public speaker. The man behind his brand is all about trust and getting your clients to trust you. Over the years, Chris has discovered his purpose of being a family man, but also a businessman. As the founder of ChristopherClowes.com and proprietor of HC Media Group, Chris takes us on his unique journey throughout our chat and discusses the importance of a healthy work-life balance.
Okay, Chris, welcome to People Behind Brands podcast. How are you doing today?
I am good, buddy. I am good. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Not too bad. Where are you joining from today?
So I am in a little village called Tiptree in Essex, which is not far from Chelmsford, which is quite nice.
Yeah, not too far from me either, because I'm in Colchester. So yeah, good. So Chris and I first met earlier this year through a mutual connection where Making Websites Better and Chris have begun to collaborate on exciting projects. Throughout Chris's extensive marketing career, he has worked with many esteemed clients such as EE, Vodafone, Butlins, the National Trust, the FA, Macmillan, Ladbrokes, and many more. Chris positions himself as a conversion rate optimization CRO specialist, where his unique talent enables him to partner with marketing managers, guiding them to enhance their strategies to new heights. Not only is Chris a marketing maestro with 20 plus years of experience, but he's also a distinguished public speaker and author of several top-selling books. Beyond his professional prowess, we also touch upon Chris's life lessons from the world of business and his personal journey to this point in his life. So Chris, to start us off, perhaps you can take us back to the beginning and how you built your career to date.
Yeah, well, that was very well put. In a nutshell. So my career actually didn't start in marketing. My career started as a civil engineer. And I started as a civil engineer and got made redundant like everybody else in 2008. And needed to get a job, and I've always been quite good with my mouth, so the only job that I could get at the time was a sales job, and it was selling marketing, and it just clicked. I just got it straight away, and got into marketing, and then decided to retrain, got a master's in marketing, because at the time when I wanted to be at the same level as education as the people that I was selling to. And I just kind of grew from there, really. And the engineering side has given me a really good backbone, because conversion rate optimization is all about data and mathematics and numbers and trying to find a percentage here and there, which is technically the same as engineering and in the backbones of it. So it's been a long slog to get to where I am now, but it's been worth it.
Yeah, Well, I think obviously we'll come back to your sort of past career and what you've sort of taken from maybe each of those roles that you've had past. But among your talents, you've got a strong passion and work ethic for obviously CRO analysis. So for those that might not know what CRO is, perhaps you can explain more about what you do and how you help your clients with their campaign or strategies.
So in a nutshell, if you're doing some marketing and you send 100 people to your website and you get one person to convert, you spent X amount of money and you've made X amount of money. What I do is I get the same 100 people to the website, but instead of getting one person convert, I try and get 8 people to convert. So you're still spending the same money on marketing, but you're getting a higher return on the back end because the conversion rate has increased, which means that you're making more sales.
Okay. So yeah, obviously going back to your sort of earlier point where you sort of touched upon your previous career. So whilst doing my research, I noticed you've obviously had extensive experience in working for companies in your past career. But what made you want to branch out and work with your own clients as a business owner, but also a leader in that sense?
If I'm completely honest, job satisfaction. I remember working on a campaign for Ladbrokes. And you can imagine how much traffic Ladbrokes gets. And I increased the conversion rate by 3%. Now, 3% to most people doesn't sound a lot, but that was, hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of new sales for the brand. And I got an email saying, great, your target next month is this. I didn't get a thank you. And it took me and my team months to kind of work on that. And I just thought, do you know what? Pardon my language, but a bit of F you. I've worked on this. And I didn't really enjoy my job because, you're sitting at City of London, slugging it out and not really getting the job satisfaction. So I wanted to go off, take the same mindset, but actually help people that are appreciative of the work. Yes, I might be playing with less money or I earn less doing it, but actually I can go home at the end of the day and know that I've done a good job.
Yeah.
And so it's more kind of that side that I wanted to do. I wanted to help smaller businesses. And because of that, some of my clients, we've been in business 6 years. I was just talking to one of my clients, Katie, a minute ago, and she's been with us for 5 years. And I've seen her business grow, and then she's doing really well. And I just prefer that, that kind
I think you can take great pride from that, though, can't you? Because obviously you've been involved in that, but also you're watching that particular client's business grow and obviously succeed further. So, if you're on that journey with them, then it's all the better for them, but also better for you. So.
Yeah, I absolutely. Yesterday I had breakfast with somebody that I've helped for the last 6 years, and he's just invited me and the family round to his house for a barbecue. You don't get that when you're working with the big brands. You have to be basically fighting for your survival the whole time. To me, you fight for the results, not just to keep the business. So that's kind of why I set up myself, because I was depressed. And I wanted that freedom of working for yourself and enjoying what you do rather than, being tied down to a desk. Yeah.
So talk to us about your business that you're operating at the moment, or other sort of businesses that you're involved in at the moment. I mean, because it'll be interesting to kind of sort of see how you help these clients, but where your position is in the company now.
Yeah. So I am the co-founder of HC Media Group. We're an award-winning digital marketing agency based in Essex. And I say the word kind of digital marketing agency loosely because technically that's what we are if you're kind of branding people. But what we focus on is that first element, that strategy of getting people to buy from you. So the reason someone purchases from you is because they trust you more than your competitor that offers the same product.
Yeah.
So if you trust me to get a result more than my competitor to get a result, it doesn't matter about price. You're going to come to me because you trust me more to get that result. So what we start with is a strategy, how to get people to trust you. and that is your content on your website. Do you have FAQs? Do you mention the price on your website, or do you hide everything? Do you speak in the content that your perfect customer wants to be spoken to? I'm dealing with a client at the moment. They're an AI company, but their target market is not AI. They're solving a problem using AI, but they speak so technical that the general Joe Blogs goes onto the website and goes, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. So because of that, they're not going to buy it because they don't trust that you know what they know.
Yep.
So we need to get that content right. So we focus mainly on the strategy of how to get people to convert into customers in a nutshell. That is not just your website. That is not just your social media. It's your emails. It's your processes that are in place, making sure that you get back to people within 24 hours if they made an inquiry. The phone number that you use to phone them. The whole kind of sales and marketing process that comes through. If anything of that seems dodgy, somebody's going to go, I don't trust this company. I'm off. So though it's that top, you do look at the top funnel, but it's the whole kind of process, throughout, really.
Yeah. So just going back to that kind of original sort of thought process when you started your company now. So when you initially decided upon founding or creating your own business opportunities, I mean, just talk to us about the risk factor involved in that. So did it feel like a natural step, or was there any sense of doubt or nerves attached before obviously starting out?
I actually owned a business before this, and it completely flopped and folded, and I nearly went bankrupt. And that was because at that time I didn't know how to run a business. And that was an events business. So hire out nightclubs, fill it with celebrities, DJs, and then promote it, pay the DJs, take the profit. But I was more interested in going out and drinking and enjoying myself at that time. I wouldn't really say I was a businessman. But no, even after that, there was no doubt. I actually set up the business, or I left my job to work for the business full time, because obviously I was doing a part time just as we, for a few months before kind of we made the jump. My kid was 3 weeks old when I made that jump. Possibly why I'm divorced now, because I put the family under so much stress, quitting my job when my kid was just first born. But they always say that in business, you need that reason why to make it work. And I work from home and I saw my kid every single morning. I'm like, that's my reason why. And kind of that's what made it work. So no, there was no doubt. There was no, there was no doubt whatsoever. But I mean, it's not been easy. There's been lots of doubts during the process, but not at the beginning of the process, because at the beginning of the process, you're quite high on excitement. So that was the interesting part.
Yeah, so obviously you've had previous roles in your career. I think you've probably taken a lot of knowledge and obviously aspects from those previous roles into what you do today. But how would you say your past experiences have impacted on what you do today?
I think the past experience, so we work on strategies. And the good thing about my experience and our experience as a business now, it's not just me, we've seen so many brands that have worked, and we've looked into the strategy of why it's worked. And we've seen so many brands that haven't worked, and we've looked into the strategies of why it hasn't worked. And then every time I see a new brand come across my desk, I pretty much know what it should be doing straight away. And if I don't, from the experience, I know what tools to use to get the data and what to analyze to find out if it's going to work. The big thing is I've had lots of experience of seeing things that don't work. And it's an interesting thing to learn from.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is learning from their mistakes or previous campaigns, previous agencies they've been involved in, and all that sort of stuff. Because you can only
Yeah.
sort of test and measure what has worked previously,
Yeah.
also test and measure things in the future as well with campaigns and tactics. So yeah, I do get that. Having met you previously and discussed your career path at length, you seem very self-assured in your quest for success, if you don't mind me saying. So where do you think that mentality or confidence comes from?
I wouldn't say it's a confidence; it's a determination. This in some of my books, this is kind of public knowledge, but I grew up in a children's home. And when I left the children's home, I was homeless for a number of years. I had some addictions, and I kind of built myself up from there. I'm determined, one, that I never have to return back to that area, and two, that my kids don't have to kind of go through that, because the reason, I went into a children's home was because my mum was, broke down because she needed cash. She was struggling with life, and it was just her on her own, and she broke down, and I had to go into care. And I don't want my kids to go through that kind of stuff. So my work ethic comes from a determination, really, of I just want I want to give myself and my kids a good platform to move forward and to strive with life.
Yeah. So another angle to your profession is having the skills as a public speaker and author, which have clearly contributed to your reputation in the marketing field. So tell us a bit more about the type of public speaking you do and your role as an author.
So again, I'll go back to the reason someone buys off you is because they trust you. So what I did 10 years ago, before I even set up myself, said, what can I do to get out there and to get people to trust me? And one of those is being an author. So I got my head down and I wrote a book, and I really enjoyed it. And now I've got 6. Because every couple of years there's different things that's changing. That you've got AI now, so I've got 2 books out now about AI. One, AI in Google search, and my latest one is called Turn Mud into Money using AI. And so I wrote the books mainly because I wanted to get my knowledge out there so people can buy it. I price all my books under a tenner, which is key thing. It's cheap. People can buy that, sit down and learn. But that gets the trust in me that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Back on the back of that, public speaking. I do that so again people can see me, they can trust me and understand. It's all part of my marketing plan for ourselves. Now, the way that I like to go with public speaking is education, and educating people on what they should be doing. So I do a webinar. A week. Every Thursday at 1:00, I do a webinar, and they're on different subjects. Last week it was how to get to the top of Google. People in the SEO world thought I was absolutely mad teaching people how to get to the top of Google. Right, but actually, what I do is I teach people down to, and they go, "That's brilliant! I really understand it now. Thank you so much, but I haven't got the time to do it. Can you do it for me?" But they're actually the easiest customer because they know and understand actually what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So they give you that breathing space and that time and whatnot. And when you send them the reports, they actually understand it. So we educate a lot, and we don't actually sell, we just educate, and then they come back, "Oh, that's great. Can you just do it for us?" And that's when obviously we go, "Yes, this is the price."
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good model to do, actually. I think something that I say a lot is that people buy from people. So I really sort of resonate with your trust sort of element to your business, but everything you kind of do essentially. So yeah, I really do get that. I mean, our podcast is founded upon honesty and how testing times have impacted, good or bad, on our personal and working lives. So away from business, can you tell us about a challenging time in your personal life that made you who you are today?
I got divorced.
Yeah.
You know, that's simple. I set up the business, and then about a year after that, I got divorced, and my business partner was my father-in-law. And he still is my business partner. And my ex-wife works in the business and still does work in the business, which is, you know, people find a bit strange. But that, you know, that time was not easy. We worked in separate offices for a while and things like that to kind of settle down. And then COVID.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I was sitting at home. I was married at the time, and I was sitting at home the day of lockdown. And the next day, 82% of my business went. Because I was doing all retainers, marketing retainers for a lot of car showrooms and a lot of beauty places and things that you needed people walking through the door. And all the doors were shut. And they're like, well, I don't need anybody walking through the door now. So they just cut us. And, you know, we was on about 30 grand a month, and it just went. And I'm a big believer in mental health. You've got to look after someone's mental health because of the past of what's gone on with myself. So I refused to put anybody on furlough. And I had a few members of staff sitting around twiddling their thumbs. And I had to find the cash to pay. So, yeah, those two mixed together, because it was around about the same time,
What I've found, certainly throughout COVID, was that, you know, it's certainly businesses, the first thing that they tend to sort of stop or get rid of is their marketing.
Yeah.
Which to me doesn't make any sense, because you've got to have some, especially when people can't go to a shop or can't walk through a door, meet people, blah, blah, then you need some sort of form of advertisement. And obviously digital marketing is that, whether that's through social media, SEO, or anything like that. But I found that, like, lots of people were kind of disregarding the marketing. That was the first thing they had to get rid of, because obviously they had to cut costs. Yeah. But that was the first thing they was getting rid of.
We actually pretty much rebranded at that point, because up to then we was a lead generation agency. And then I couldn't deliver any leads. And that was the point that we pivoted to more kind of a brand kind of area and said, okay, right, well, you can't give me any money for lead generation, but I tell you what, instead of doing that, why don't I rework your website? Or why don't we, you know, do this and do a strategy to this? Because they was getting their kickback and their bounce back money, and they were investing it, but they was investing it on the business rather than in the business. So we just kind of pivoted the way that we sold. And the first kind of 2 months was quite scary, but then we started picking up business. And actually, when we come out of lockdown, we was doing all right, because we had managed to kind of pivot and go down the more strategy route and the web design and branding and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so working on your own ventures obviously involves a lot of time, a lot of hours, lots of drive. You know, how much of an impact does that have on your personal life with friends and family? Because I know obviously you mentioned earlier that you've got, you know, obviously children now. So how does that sort of impact? And you've also got kind of two roles to play, I guess, as well, haven't you? You've got that business owner, getting business in, looking after the clients, but also being a parent.
Yes, it's been tough. It's been tough, and I'll, you know, be honest, that, you know, that was one of the main reasons I got divorced, because I was always out traveling the country, being on stage and things like that. I think after 6 years now, I've been able to iron that out a bit and have a bit more kind of flexibility and a bit more kind of time. Do
you think you've finally found your sort of calling, or your kind of happy place, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely found my happy place. Obviously got a new missus. She's got her own business. She gets it. Which is a massive thing. But yeah, I'm the happiest I've ever been now. But you do have to have that self-time. The one thing I didn't believe when I first started is in not working and I was like, you know, I've got to have control. But actually, most of the time I was at burnout. And now having that time away from work makes you more productive. Yeah. And I've only learned that, I reckon, in the last year, 18 months max. So now very rarely work at the weekends. I'm up silly early every single day. I'm up at 4:30, 5 every single morning. And then, just getting home and making sure that you have the evening to yourself. I get home at 6, I stop. Whereas before I'd be working through till 11, 12 and then still getting up, silly o'clock in the morning. So I've put some things in place to help me switch off, which I swear by kind of business coaches and things like that. So sat down with business coaches and worked in methods to switch off in the evening. So every night, as soon as I get home, I've got my little purple book here that obviously matches my brand, purple. And I write tomorrow's to-do list when I get home before I shut everything up, because then that's kind of me going, right, I've got control, put everything to one side, I can now sit down and relax. There's little things like that I've learned over time. And so the evenings need to chill and the weekends. But then also on a Sunday afternoon, I will work for about 2 hours doing Monday's to-do list and planning the week.
Yeah.
So, but then by doing that, I don't feel anxious that I'm not getting the work done, which I used to feel very anxious that I've got so much to do and you're just not doing it. And it's because I wasn't shutting down at any point. Yeah,
it's all about having that work-life balance at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's the quicker you can get that, or the happier you are, then the benefit of the business, the benefit for yourself and your family. So yeah, I get that.
It works.
So away from business, obviously public speaking and books and all that sort of stuff that you're involved in, how do you like to unwind? Do you have any interests or hobbies you'd like to share?
I sit on the sofa having a whiskey, watching the football. If I'm completely honest. Love a jacuzzi and a sauna, which I try and get in most of the time. That's kind of my thinking time. But yeah, apart from work and family, might be a bit boring. Don't really go out and do, things with it, on my own. I just like to sit there and watch the football in the evening, or taking the kids to the farm and doing different bits and bobs like that. But yeah, if you ask the missus what my hobby would be, it's definitely watching the footy.
Yeah. And you're a Stoke City fan, is that right?
I am a Stoke fan. Yeah, which isn't football at the moment. I think it's more ballet at the moment.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So what I do with my guests towards the end of each episode is a little trivia.
Okay.
So where we talk about some of your most favourite things in a very quick sort of fire round. So I'll go through 5 or 6 questions and then just give me a quick fire sort of response. So favourite food to start off with?
Lasagna.
Good choice. Favourite band or artist from the world of music?
George Benson.
George Benson.
George Benson,
nice. Yeah. Favourite TV programme or film?
That changes all the time with what's on. I'm on Designated Survivor at the moment on Netflix. We've been binging that. But I tell you one that always makes me laugh, and I've watched it about 3 or 4 times. And it's not dirty by the sound. It's Jane the Virgin.
Yeah.
Right, I love that program. That just cracks me up every single time.
Favourite place in the world?
Lake Annecy in the French Alps.
Nice, very nice. Favourite famous person that either you've met or you haven't met?
I'd say my favourite famous person would be Peter Crouch.
Oh, former
Stoke City legend. Yeah. And again, he just cracks me up. I haven't met him, but I would love to.
Yeah. Do you listen to his podcast?
All the time.
Yeah, it's a good pod. Favourite memory, as the last question, favourite memory from your life?
Favourite memory from my life? God, there's just been so many. The one that sticks out was when my daughter passed her gymnastics exam, and just how proud she was, because if I'm completely honest, she's useless. And she passed, and she was just so proud. I think that's the one that kind of sticks out at the moment.
Yeah. Chris, look, thank you for your time today to discuss your life lessons and obviously career to date. So it is always a pleasure to sit down with you and have a chat. So just to end this episode, perhaps you'd like to tell everyone where our listeners can find you and benefit from your expertise, whether that's your business, your public speaking, and obviously where maybe people can find your books too?
Yeah, so I've got two brands. One is ChristopherClowes.com. That is more kind of, we're getting into using AI and whatnot. So if you're interested in AI consultancy, basically working out your processes and seeing where AI automation can fit within your processes, then that's the Christopher Clowes brand. But the marketing side and the strategy side is HC Media Group. And obviously both on social media and hcmediagroup.co.uk and christopherclowes.com, or just, if you want my books, just go onto Amazon and type in Christopher Clowes, and they'll pop up, and there's been a few now.
Lovely job. Lovely. Thanks, Chris. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we continue with more life lessons from the world of business.
So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. If you like what you heard today, do yourself a favour, subscribe to our exclusive content now, and follow us on our social media when you search People Behind Brands Podcast or at Podcast PBB. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we explore more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!